I record this episode especially tribute to Techspressionism's 2021 online exhibitions. I met Davante last year. He introduced me to join the movement, and I met Colimbo Gober and Spatler, especially helped me a lot when I tried to get into the NFT and the digital art industry. I used to do a lot of digital design. I have an interior design company and I have a web design company. I didn't use all these tools and apps and technology for a long time. But ever since I started to create NFTs and I learned all these tools again, and I really gained a lot of knowledge because I joined this Techspressionism movement. Now my NFT is presented in these online exhibitions. This one is already sold out, but I really like to also share this online exhibition to all the art lovers, especially people who want to get into the field. Techspressionism is a movement. It's a new genre. Like Jason Pola, we have abstract expressionism. Techspressionism is artists use technology to express the inner experience. I'm so grateful and I feel really highly excited that I am part of the movement. And you also can check techspressionism.com to see the online exhibition. It's still unveiled. And the rest of these recording, it will be just like a documentary of the original Zoom meeting.
Today, I'm very happy, Helen, that you could make it. And Helen is responsible for helping really crystallize all of the ideas, behind the development of this project, as well as the definition of the term. And she actually was the first person to use the term in print back in 2011.
Recording in progress.
Hello, and welcome everyone to our Techspressionism virtual salon. This is our 29th meeting, and it's kind of a big one, because today we are actually going to debut our Techspressionism 21 virtual exhibition that comprises about, 93 different artists across the globe. 95. Whoops. I'm sorry for those two people I left out. But yeah, it's kind of a big deal. First of all, I'm Davante Bradley, otherwise known as Davo. I'm usually the moderator for these wonderful meetings. And joining me are the host of a bunch of other artists and supporters of this movement, all wonderful folks. And here pretty much how it's going to go is that, we're going to have Colin, who coined the term Techspressionism, and Patrick kind of give an intro to what this whole exhibition is about, how the project started, all the work that went into it, and just how meaningful it is to us. And I think that pretty much covers everything, I think. So that being said, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, give you guys a walkthrough of the exhibition while Colin and Patrick do their thing.
All right, awesome. And for all you that joined us just now, the show is now live at techspressionism.com. It'll be on the homepage through the end of the year. And the permanent address of the show is techspressionism.com/TS2021. So that's going to redirect to the homepage through December 31st. And after that point, it'll be permanently archived at that address. So I first of all like to thank Davo, our moderator, as well as my co-curator, Patrick Lichty, and our advisor, Helen Harrison, for all of your time and energy put forth towards this project so far. My name is Colin Goldberg, and zooming in from southern Vermont in the Green Mountain National Forest, where we moved a couple months ago. So I'd also like to thank all the amazing artists who contributed work towards this exhibition, as well as everyone in the audience attending today. And while our moderator Davo takes you through on a quick walkthrough of the show, I'm going to just provide a quick overview of Techspressionism and how we got to where we are today. So I originally came up with the term Techspressionism in 2011 as a title for a self-produced solo show at 4 North Main Gallery in Southampton, New York. And the term was first used in print in the exhibition catalog, which included an essay written by the critic and curator Helen Harrison, who's here with us today. Helen is the director of the Pollock Krasner Houston Study Center in East Hampton, New York, and is now serving as Techspressionism's advisor. She's also the former curator of the Parish Art Museum in Southampton, New York, as well as Guildhall Museum in East Hampton, New York. In 2014, I decided to write a manifesto as a way to capitulate some of the ideas that I feel Techspressionism represents. I was inspired by other artistic manifestos of the past, including André Breton's Surrealist Manifesto and Marinetti's Futurist Manifesto. There's 10 points in the original manifesto, but I feel that the first 3 are the most central. The first one is that the computer and technology in general are not separate from humankind, but are a natural extension of us. 2, technology is a continuum which is as old as humanity, not a novelty or fad. 3, the computer is one of a long string of tools which have enabled human expression, including the typewriter, the camera, the printing press, the pen, the pencil, and paint. Techspressionism was first referred to as a movement in the Wired article If Picasso Had a MacBook Pro, which was published in 2014. It got its first television coverage in 2015 in a PBS interview I did during an artist residency at the studios of Key West, airing on the PBS show Art Loft. And that was in PBS Miami, and it later got syndicated to other PBS stations across the U.S. And in the summer of 2020, I did the Google News search for Techspressionism, and I happened to see that an artist named Oz Van Rosen, whose work is included in this exhibition, had used the term to describe her work in an article online. I believe the publication was called Beyond Photography. And so I reached out to Oz to see if she was interested in participating in putting an artist group together around the idea of Techspressionism. She liked the concept, and we discussed using Instagram as a platform to locate like-minded artists. Later that month, I met with artist Steve Miller to discuss the viability of working toward establishing Techspressionism as a term of art historical nomenclature. I'd first met Miller in 1993 through an undergraduate internship in which I worked as Steve's studio assistant. We developed initial language for a website and developed a strategy to propagate the term Techspressionism through the use of social media and hashtags. And on August 22nd of 2020, Techspressionism.com launched from the front porch of Steve Miller's studio in Sagaponack, New York. Shortly thereafter, I presented the idea to Helen Harrison, who agreed to be the group's advisor. And Helen suggested the development of an exhibition as a framework for the development of an artist group. And it was decided that a virtual exhibition would make the most sense in light of the coronavirus pandemic. An account was established on the Kunstmatrix VR exhibition platform to begin initial research and planning of the event, which is opening today, a little over 1 year later. On September 1st in 2020, the first Techspressionist Salon meetup was conducted via Zoom. The Techspressionist Salon was conceived of as a modern counterpart to the Surrealist salons of the 1920s, in which artists could meet informally to socialize and discuss ideas. In addition to myself, Steve Miller, Helen Harrison, and Oz Van Rosen, the first salon included artist and theorist Patrick Lichty, a colleague of mine from graduate school at Bowling Green State University in Ohio. Over a decade ago, we earned our MFA degrees in computer art together, studying under Greg Little, whose work is also included in this exhibition, which Patrick has co-curated with me. In the initial salon meetup, the group came to a consensus on the primary definition for Techspressionism, which is an artistic approach in which technology is utilized as a means to express emotional experience. And that definition is really a mashup of the definitions of technology and expressionism, specifically expressionism. But Helen actually made the suggestion that the initial definition used the word style, an artistic style in which technology is utilized as a means to express emotional experience. And I think it's important to state that one of her main contributions, in my opinion, was that that word style was replaced with the word approach. So this is not work that's unified by sort of a tech aesthetic in any way, in my opinion. It's a very diverse body of work that is unified by the approach and the philosophy behind the methodology involved in the making of the work, not necessarily work that all looks the same, which I think is an important distinction when we're seeing things like glitch art and other things like that out there on the net today. So with the addition of Patrick, who was teaching in Abu Dhabi at the time, this core group effectively became Techspressionism's founders when we met and came to a consensus on the definition of the term. Shortly after the first salon, Patrick suggested a set of revisions to the original manifesto, resulting in version 2, which is the text currently posted on the website. And in October of 2020, the Techspressionist Visual Artists Index was established, which is a curated selection of artists primarily located through their use of the hashtag Techspressionism on Instagram. The first artist to be added to the index was Marcos Peklavanos, one of the artists in this show. He's been followed by a growing international selection of artists, now including over 270 artists from 40 different countries around the world. On January 5th, the Techspressionism YouTube channel launched, containing recordings of our salons, starting with salon number 8, and a new Techspressionist artist interview series initiated by artist Roz Diamond, whose work is included in this exhibition. On February 1st, Techspressionism.com began a strategic partnership with German technology firm Kunstmatrix Technologies AG, which is the technology platform that this show is being hosted on today. On April 15th, Techspressionism Collab, the first group exhibition of Techspressionism artworks, opened during Salon number 15. This ongoing project, initiated and curated by our moderator Davo, was inspired by the idea of notable collaborations like Warhol and Basquiat, as well as the collaborative spirit of the jazz tradition, which Basquiat also drew inspiration from. The project involves two artists passing a digital file back and forth to result in a collaborative piece. And you can see the two different collab shows on the website at techspressionism.com/exhibitions. On May 5th in 2021, NFT Now, an international online juried exhibition of NFT works, launched, and that show is curated by Ann Spalter, whose work is also in this exhibition. Then the show opened live on Zoom for public viewing using Kunstmatrix, including a catalog and a curatorial essay by Ms. Spalter. The show is featured in ArtNet News as a Frieze Week editor's pick by senior editor Sarah Cascone. And the recording was recorded live. The opening was recorded live, like this one is, via Zoom, and is available for viewing on YouTube. So coming into this month, on October 20th, the hashtag Techspressionism hit 25,000 posts on Instagram. And today, Techspressionism 2021 is opening, which is the first large-scale survey of Techspressionist artworks. The show includes artworks from 95 artists spanning 26 different countries. And the show and associated artist interviews comprise the Techspressionist Pavilion at the Wrong Biennale number 5, which is opening up at thewrong.org on November 1st. I envision the current manifestation of Techspressionism really as a decentralized collaborative social sculpture. And the German artist Joseph Beuys created the term social sculpture to embody his understanding of art's potential to transform society. As a work of art, a social sculpture involves human activity that strives to structure and shape society or the environment. The central idea of a social sculptor is an artist who creates structures in society using language, thoughts, actions, and objects. Since the concept of social sculpture has been an inspiration for this project thus far, I'm going to close with 3 transformative goals I have for Techspressionism personally. The first would be the presentation of innovative work in a broad range of styles, reflecting the expressive potential of electronic media. The second would be the demonstration that artists have always adopted contemporary technologies for creative purposes. This isn't something that just started with the computer. And the third would be that curatorial inclusivity is a priority in terms of gender equality and international focus and sociocultural diversity. This past February, an exhibition proposal for Techspressionism Beyond Digital received approval from Southampton Arts Center. The exhibition will open at Southampton Arts Center in Southampton, New York in April 2022 and will run through the summer of that year. The show is going to encompass a selection of paintings, drawings, prints, sculptural and video works, as well as an immersive component, and it'll be the first physical group exhibition of Techspressionist artworks. One last thing, within the last week or so, a bunch of different artists in this show had mentioned that they had their work minted as NFTs. This wasn't the original game plan, but I wanted to make it, something where if artists have work to sell, they're able to monetize this exhibition in some way. So if any of the other artists who have not yet minted their work as an NFT wish to do so, please send me the link to your NFT. It has to be the piece that's already in the exhibition, and I will add it to the online gallery. So that's all for me. Thanks for listening, everyone. And I'm now going to hand the mic over to my co-curator, Patrick.
Okay, thanks, Colin. This is going to be very interesting because of the fact that myself, I think that we're probably flipping our usual positions. Is that myself is that you're being the artist in the field and myself being the academic. I think that I thank you very much for that kind of rather thorough academic and rather quantitative history of Techspressionism. And the thing is that to your your Apollonian position on this, I'm possibly going to be maybe the representing the Dionysian side of Techspressionism. So I have a little manifesto or offer it hopefully in the most positive way possible. So I want to say that on this opening of the 2021 annual of the Techspressionist Community Exhibition, I want to give a few words in humility that may not sound so humble at all. Humble in that I realize that what I might be saying may be taken as the height of audacity or even arrogance, but humility, understanding that we're standing really in no less in the center of history itself. So I want to quote one of the fathers of the genre, Vasily Kandinsky, and there's a quote that's often quoted, but I want to quote all of it and reply to it. Every work of art is the child of its age, and in many cases, the mother of our emotions. And this is something that resonates with us. It follows that each period of culture produces an art of its own, which can never be repeated. Efforts to revive the art principles of the past will at best produce an art that is stillborn or dead. It is impossible for us to live and feel like the ancient Greeks. Now, the thing is, if anybody judges me for invoking this particular quote in its whole, give me just a moment of your time. I'm not in a way, if I can be a little bit light, I'm doing nothing less than a living white guy entering an argument with a dead white guy on the matter of art history itself, is one of the problems of art history these days in itself. But our moment is driven by far more than that. Being that we're inspired by the principles of expressionism, and as expressive technologies don't mean that we're trying to revive things like German expressionism, ABEX, or neo-expressionism. It means that we are nothing less than an ongoing set of descendants from dozens of countries of countless shades and genders inspired by those ideas that those people put in motion. To use Kandinsky's metaphor, we're not looking to live as the ancient Greeks, as he said, as much as Pollock or Bassett sought to live like Kandinsky, Munter, or Kirchner. Forebears of the first wave of the avant felt that they were singular in their vision, but what they did instead was to put forth a golden sound that resonates on through time to this day. The expressionists could no more see beyond themselves to the abstract expressionists as they could no more see further to the color field artists and the neo-expressionists. Kandinsky had no more idea about Pollock and Krasner as they had no more inkling of people like Kiefer Bassett's decades later, or people like Goldberg, or myself, or Etta Sabian, or Diamond, Gellis, Little, Spalter, Gellis, Harrison, Andrew, Rubin, or Bradley. I'm being really audacious and I know it. But the thing is this any more audacious than any artist believing that they belong in a gallery or a museum? Or is this any more audacious than the words of artists like Dali or Kandinsky himself? In saying that we're artists of our time wishing to express ourselves through technological means, it isn't to live in Weimar, Germany, or on the Lower East Side in New York and Chicago or any place else. We're not these people. We don't live in those times. But as art history proves, ideas resonate in their own way, in their own time, and that is where I believe we are with Techspressionism. Over the last year or two, we've been gathered here, thinking about how expression reveals itself through technology, even considering that the wheel itself is a technology just as much as oil paint. We just intend to use digital means, just as Warhol first did his first portraits of Debbie Harry on the Amiga 1000, nevertheless. So the last 6 months or so, Colin and I have been sifting through almost 3,000 works, which is an ambitious task in itself. And we had a couple of fights over this one. But however, as with all times in history, we've gone through this arduous process of choosing and presenting what I think is a great cross-section of maybe not what I would call a movement, but a community of like-minded individuals, a living social sculpture, to paraphrase Boys, as Colin did. We've had a sublime conversation, and I have hopes that this conversation continues for quite some time. So in answering what I hope some might have thought was a questioning of our own motives, through the words of one of the seminal expressionists himself, I hope that you see what I'm getting at here is that we're children of our own time, with our own art that resonates with the same vibrancy for the human condition that Kandinsky and Munter had when they started the Blau Reiter, and when Kirchner and his group started the Brücke. In this way, Techspressionists agree that art is a child of its time. This is our art. This is our time. And this is our community. And I hope in this way that the power of our collectiveness deserves to be seen and heard in space and time. I want to thank Colin for asking me to be part of this. I want to ask all of you who have been part of this group. I want to thank all the artists who came before us in this great tradition. And I want to thank all the artists who took part in the exhibition. And I hope you have a lot of fun seeing this. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much, you two. Thank you, Patrick, and thank you, Colin, for your words. I'm still actually trying to get through the some of the video entries for the exhibition. I think I've gotten through a good chunk of them so far, but the the platform doesn't allow for auto playing during the guided tour, so it's whatever. But anyway, yeah, I have no words actually, really. Other than just gratitude for just the opportunity for being here and being able to be a part of this movement too. And it's a really special place. Like this is kind of like my home away from home. And yeah, I hope to be a part of this, a part of you guys' lives, and I hope I'm part of you guys' lives for as long as possible. Or as long as this will go, which will hopefully be forever, if I had my way anyway. But anyway, thank you so much, you two. Thank you, Colin, and thank you, Patrick. And I think we can go ahead and get started with some of the artists talking about their works. I'm going to try and get through a few more of these visual pieces first, because there were quite a few. And I'm just like trying to get to them based off of memory. I think I've covered quite a few of them, and if I didn't get to your piece, and one of the visual ones, or animated ones, sorry, I do apologize, because there are quite a few. All right.
So for all you guys that came in late, and thank you, Davo, the show is now live at Techspressionism.com. It will reside there until the end of the year, at which point it'll be archived back at the permanent address for the show, which is Techspressionism.com/TS2021. And each artist is going to be invited that's here. If you haven't put your name in the chat and you want to talk about your work, just drop your name in the chat, and we're going to go through in the order that they appeared in the chat. I think Nina had mentioned that she had an engagement, so I think we can lead off with her, but we're going to give each artist 3 minutes. I'm going to be the timekeeper, so when it hits 2 minutes, I'm just going to jump in and say 1 minute, and that'll let you know that there's it's time to start wrapping it up.
All right. I got one more, I think. I think this is the last one. All right. So we have Nina, and I will get to your work real quick, actually. All right. There, Nina?
Yeah, I'm here.
All right.
I'm here. Okay, no, I was waiting for you to say, go.
Oh, no. I was just making sure that you're still here. Okay.
I'm here. Can everybody hear me now? I'm on gallery view.
Yes.
All right. Okay, are you showing the work at the same time? That's my question.
Would you like to show the work as you're speaking?
Well, I don't know, maybe so people understand what I'm talking. I don't know.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. Okay. All right.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea, just so probably the majority of the time can be spent looking at the...
And thank you so much for being part of the exhibition. We really do appreciate it.
So most of my work throughout, from the 60s through now, has basically been about speaking about the cultural issues, championing unsung heroes, which is something I'm very involved with now, still currently. Global warming, climate change issues have been very important to me. I created a cloud house in 2004, which was also a soothsayer telling you how inclement weather conditions that were going to be happening. So here in this piece, it's the smoke that's filling your lungs, whether you can see it or not. Just reminding that treating subjects as outliers, just as artists are treated as outliers, not into the mainstream vocabulary, which was a little bit of what was just presented, which I loved that consciousness being presented, that we all have a voice and we have something to say, and we hope that our community and others outside of our community will learn from it, experience it, and be excited about changing things. It's really an act, a call to action is something that I've used technology to portray my visions. That's it.
All right, thank you, and thank you for being part of this project and this community.
I'm going to try to drop a link in the chat for each person too, so you guys can pull up some information while they're sharing.
Yep. And I guess for going forward, if you'd like for your work to be on the screen the whole time, just let me know. Because originally we were going to, just show the work for a little bit and then have the person talk so that everyone can be seen, like as a speaker. But if you'd rather just have your work shown the entire time that you're speaking, that's fine too. All right. And I think up next we have Miss Lights, Renata. So I will get to your work really quick.
I'd like the work to stay on the screen while I speak.
All righty, can do.
Thanks, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here today. An honor to be in this setting. It's Techspressionism 2021. This piece is called Fury, and you can see from the contents of it, its composition, that it's about rage. And when I did this piece back in 2018, I was angry because I was working as a caregiver, a medical caregiver for my family members, and I was helping to care for my nonagenarian parents and my younger brother who unfortunately has suffered a stroke. So I watched them suffer, and I tried my best to see to it that they had lives of great dignity, even in their suffering, which meant I was often at odds with the medical establishment, who constantly advised me that I should just let them all die and give up all the struggle about death with dignity and having a life of comfort in as much as it was humanly possible for them to have it. So in this moment, I took a photograph. I documented my caregiving journey with my family members with photographs using my smartphone. I had an LG torch, which cost $47 from, I think, Best Buy or Walmart or something like that. And I needed instruments that fit in my pocketbook because when you're a caregiver, you don't have time or space to be setting up easels and you're handling brushes and dealing with chemicals that might make sick people even more ill. So
That's 1 minute.
In this moment, I took the photo and I thought about how I felt with watching the suffering, watching my mother die, and actually pronouncing her death in our home, and then losing my brother as well. I just said no. The one word I could think of was to say no. The scream when I took the photo was silent, and I did not want to leave it silent, so I selected a font which I thought expressed how I felt, which was, like barbed wire being ripped out of your throat. And the single word I chose to communicate that angst was no. This is something that we all understand. So it's a digital painting superimposed upon a digital photograph.
That's time.
All right, thank you. All right, and next up we have, looks like Chalda. Okay, Chalda, you have the floor.
Hi, I'm Chalda Maloff. I'm in Austin, Texas. I have been working in digital art for maybe 30 years now. I have a degree in the history of art and then a graduate degree in computer science. And this was in the 70s. And so I saw some of the very first computer graphics software, and I was blown away. My work is about optimism, positive emotions, spirituality. It's mostly abstract, but it has realistic elements, maybe and botanic elements too. I use commercial art software. This particular piece was done with Corel Painter and Photoshop, and there's no photography involved. It's a freehand tablet drawing with some digital collage, and different filters. And I do print these. I print them in-house. I have a large format art printer. And then I outsource the mounting, which I mounted on 6 sheets of acrylic with a hanging mechanism so that it can be displayed without a frame. I really like the look of the artworks without a frame. And I make them in very small editions, like Harbinger is an edition of 5. And I call it an edition varié because I slightly rework the file with each print. So each one is unique. If you look at them, you'll see within an edition, you'll see very small variations. So with my aesthetics, to convey optimism and positive emotion, obviously palette is important. I always try and choose a palette that feels uplifting.
1 minute.
Splatter is something that I use a lot, as you can see in the center. I feel it's uplifting. It looks like it's something telling about the passing of the moment, because it'll be maybe different in the next moment. It looks like I just kind of shook a brush. Of course I didn't. If it was an oil painting, I shook a brush against the canvas. I try and get an illusion of backlighting, which I feel is really uplifting to people, really universally. Because I do print them, I want to keep this screen effect of backlighting. And I work a lot in layers, transparent layers, like this piece was maybe 12 or 15 layers. It is called Harbinger, which initiates a change, a new era. I did it a couple of years ago before COVID, but it seems relevant to me today.
Time.
Okay. It's a beautiful show. I'm so happy to be a part of it.
Thank you, Talda. I'm glad to have you. All right, next up we have Holly Gordon. I'm going to pull up your work. All right, and Holly, you have the floor.
You're muted, Holly.
I was about to ask, with us? Hold on, let me find her. Hey, Holly, if you're trying to speak, you're still muted, so.
Am I good now?
Yep, now you're good.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much.
Yep.
Creating art is my voice, even though I was muted for a moment. In 2006, I felt so embodied by Jackson Pollock as I was capturing the surging water crushing against the shores in the Keaney Peninsula in Maui. And then in 2009, I used Nik software to create a body of images that I call water music. And I feel as though I have undressed Mother Nature to show her raw power, her muscles, her sinew. And I rage against the horrors that are going on in the world, be it social and environmental. I've always wanted my photography to speak for Mother Nature because she has no voice. Years ago, I called my work Beyond Photography. And then several years ago, a reporter who was writing about my current photography, he called it liminal, which is transitional, where society has no vocabulary for it, where the establishment doesn't know how to accept it. And that's when I knew that I would call my photography photo liminalism. And my work has just been floating out there because I create, and whatever it catches on to, wonderful. And then when I caught on to you guys, I'm just so pleased to be part of this incredible platform.
All right, thank you, Holly.
Now, if people are interested in seeing more of the water music, it's on my website, hollygordonphotographer.com. I use the Techspressionism hashtag on Instagram. That's how you found this piece, and I'm so glad we're connected.
All right, and both that information is actually available in the information tab on her piece when you go look at it. And the same can pretty much be said for every piece in this exhibition, just in case you were curious. All right, and thank you. Now moving right along, we have Uli. So I'm going to get to your work really quick. All right. You have the floor, Uli.
Oh, sorry, I'm muted. Thank you. Firstly, thanks so much for calling and Patrick for creating this amazing exhibition. And thanks so much, Davonte, for moderating this really brilliantly as always. I'm really happy to be in the exhibition and in the community. And the piece that is like now being scaled up closer to you is my ongoing work for the alien artificial intelligence. Is my new character that is morphing and transforming between alien and artificial intelligence forms of life. And what you see on screen is a new development of EEG skin. So the skin has lots of EEG electrodes that read emotions across alien AI body. And then it meant to connect to the EEG on the audience. So the EEG skin doesn't exist in science yet. So it's kind of my project in development. What exists for now is EEG headset, which I used a number of my project, where you put it on your head like a hat. And this device monitor your brainwave activity. But according to scientific research, emotions are not only a product of your brain, but rather emotions are products of your whole body. And so what I want to do with the alien is to actually draw on this scientific theory and collect emotions from the whole body rather than just from the head. And then the performance would be performed live and connected with audience live with whatever is happening being recorded and also broadcasted as live projection. So it's pretty much like live here and now piece.
All right, thank you, Uli. That's all, correct?
Yeah, unless like questions or whatever. Because
Well,
I understand that we are short on time.
Yeah, as much as I'd like to have time for questions, we don't have too much time right now. But yeah, again, information for the artist is found in the information tab, that little I. So yeah, if you want to reach out to Uli, there's her information on her work.
Thank you. Thanks again.
And thank you. Thank you for your time and your work. All right, now moving right along, we have Karen. Let's see. Karen, there you are. All right, Karen, you have the floor.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. My name's Karen LaFleur from Cape Cod, Massachusetts. And the artwork that you're looking at here is called March into April Express. It's part of a 12-month series that I did with musician Nancy Tucker. And each month we would just take our expression of that month, both visually in animation and in sound. And it was really a wonderful project to be part of. So I'm happy to show a bit of it here. March into April Express, for me, expresses the transitional rush of winter into spring. sort of that tug and vacuum that just sort of accelerates, and then suddenly we're blooming with flowers in the spring. I started with technology in 1981. And like many of the artists here, we were all sort of in our own studios doing our own thing. And I've worked through a bunch of different stages in technology until the present. And I found that the animation adds a whole new layer of expression for me in my work, which I'm really delighted with. And then I came across Techspressionism, gathering and group movement. And I suddenly had a term to express what I had been doing since 1981. So thank you, Colin, and everyone for giving voice to all our creativity. Enjoy the show, and I thank everybody for their talents and efforts to make the show possible.
All right, thank you so much, Karen. Your work is wonderful.
Thank you.
All right, next up we have Sue. All right. Sue. There you are, Sue.
Cool. Okay, so this work is actually a digital version of a painting that I've made. My work is about sensory thresholds and transformation. So I use painting, electronics and programming to transform already existing work. So in this case, I have used a well-known artist called Artbit in Australia, well-known in Australia, and transformed his work. The reason I do this using other people's work is that I feel that a lot has already been said about problems in the world like racism, poverty, war, and climate, that I felt like it's already been said, so I'm not going to say it again. So I'll use someone else's work to talk about what they were talking about. That's a terrible way of explaining it. But yeah, that's what this work is about. And that's it, really.
All right, well, thank you, Sue. I mean, there's a bunch of different ways to continue or expand upon a conversation, and that's just the nature of it. But thank you for your time, and thank you for your work. All right, and next up we have Steve Miller. Let me get to your work, Steve.
Great, thank you.
Here we are.
Yeah, thanks, Davo, Colin, everyone that's been involved with this, Patrick, Helen. The presentation is just really clean. And my journey started, early in the 80s, using computers and understanding computers were a new visual language. And I started collaborating and seeking out people that were working in this language, which was usually scientists. So this particular piece is from 2007. I had been working previously at Brookhaven National Labs, and through Brookhaven I did a thing about quark gluon plasma, relating that to Neolithic Chinese pottery. And along the journey I met, I was recommended to talk to this guy named Rod McKinnon, who had been using the synchrotron light source at Brookhaven to do X-ray crystallography of human proteins. So this piece is actually one of Rod's models of human protein that's made from one of the algorithms that makes these 3D models of protein, and some of his notes. So I actually copied his notebooks and photographed them and then silkscreened them onto the canvas. And this show about, inside the body, but in a very abstract way. During the time we were working together, it was just fortuitous that Rod became the 2003 Nobel Prize winner in chemistry for figuring out how ions move across cell membranes. And he had, there was another curator that was interested in showing this work, And that was shown as a solo exhibition at Brandeis University and then at the National Academy of Sciences in Washington, D.C. So it's the, the essence of what, Colin started out as a studio assistant. He became a collaborator. I'd say at this point, he's my mentor. And Colin got me interested in the internet, which allowed me to get my domain, which is pretty ordinary, stevemiller.com. I was lucky to get there because I knew about these things. So this is the kind of part of the journey where I was also really in love with the history of paint and the idea that you could express something through the liquid quality of the material of paint. It also, conveniently mirrored the kind of fluid of the body since we're mostly water. So this exploration of how cells communicate through these positively charged ion in this water environment all came together in this body of work. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Steve. And also, apologies for the weirdness of the presentation. I'm not sure what happened, but it wasn't letting me zoom in the way I wanted to. But
presentation's great. You guys did an awesome job. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, and next up we have Cynthia.
By the way, real quick before Cynthia starts, I have to go teach. So the one thing is, it's been an honor working on this project, and thank you all so much for being part of this. And it's been a really sublime experience. But I teach at 2:00 Central Time. So anyway, have fun, everyone, and enjoy. Thank you.
Thanks, Patrick.
Okay, thanks, Patrick. Have a great one. So I want to start by thanking everybody, especially Patrick, who just had to leave, but he's the one who told me about the group. Techspressionism has just been wonderful. Can everyone hear me, by the way?
Yep.
Good, because I'm using an older Apple thing. I'm in my co-working space because we have a storm here today, so my internet wasn't working at home. Anyway, so this has just been really wonderful to me. I also started being digital in the early 80s, and I had put a lot of my energy into the new media world, which I think is not up to speed on the way in which all of these technologies have come together to create a kind of expressive way of working. I like what Patrick said about the wheel was once new technology, and I feel that for myself, printing, scanning, digital photography are all new technologies that have opened doors, and it's wonderful to be in a group where other people seem to be recognizing how important those innovations are, even though they're just ubiquitous today. So, and I would have to do my thank yous in case I ran out of time. So thank you to Suzanne Mendendur at the University of Rhode Island and all the researchers in her lab who have brought me into the world of plankton, kind of indirectly from my teaching at RISD, but eventually there. And now I'm the artist in residence working with them. A lot of the imagery that you're going to see was captured by a student, Jason Shadler. And I also want to thank Leah Caroline, because as you see, there's Hebrew text in my work and I don't read Hebrew. So Leah Caroline, who's an artist, helped me decipher so that the work is more spiritually referential and universal, and I actually don't have any appearances of the word God in the text in the final version. So so my work is combining microphotography of plankton, drawings of plankton that I did on paper and scanned, and this odd combination with Hebrew manuscripts. And then I do some inexpensive printing out. Thanks to the pandemic, I discovered that Zazzle does big, cheap prints. And so I can get these like $11 prints and draw directly on them. And so everything kind of came together for me. I have been trying to keep these bodies of work separate, cultural heritage work in one category, scientific imaging in another category. I'm committed to plankton, developing empathy with plankton, because without plankton, we die. and yet people don't see the plankton. So it's a bit of my contribution to climate change. But one path into it, I think, is this reference that's in this. I'm using Hebrew manuscript from Cairo from the year 1008. It's now called the Leningrad Codex. So it's because it's in the library in Leningrad, St. Petersburg, whatever. And I found oddly that they just came together, that in the original biblical text, it's not intended to be read either because it uses micrography, little writing. So that's kind of a reference. If people want to go study the Bible, they can, but I think of it as a more universal reference. And that's how I feel about it works with the plankton. The forms are similar, the patterns are similar. I don't know why. I think if we look cross-culturally at lots of cultures, there are patterns that are also repeated in nature. So it came together, and I'm so happy. This show is so incredibly wonderful. I'm just sitting here. Many of the artists I've known for a long time. Many of the artists are new to me. People working on similar themes and very different ones, but it's just inspirational. So thank you. So I think that's kind of it.
All right. Well, thank you, Cynthia.
Okay.
It's been a pleasure.
Okay. Thanks.
All right. And next up, we have Deanne. Yep. Deanne, there's your work.
Thanks, Davo.
Yeah, no problem.
To Colin and Patrick as well for this exhibition. It's really awesome to see the huge variety of work being produced through Techspressionism. So my work is, I came to digital out of necessity, developing severe reactions to any regular art making materials. And where I start every piece is with automatic drawing. So I really don't come in, sometimes I have a theme in mind, but I don't necessarily come into an idea of what exactly the work is going to be. And so this one is untitled because I'm still not exactly sure where it came from. Usually it reveals itself to me over time, but this one is still kind of in progress in my mind. And it'll probably eventually find its way into a series. I just haven't figured out what that series is yet. The other thing I wanted to say is that having come into this group and sort of found my people, as it were, as everyone else, other people have commented, I love that I can look at this show and I immediately can recognize an artist now, whereas I wouldn't necessarily have known that before. So thanks for giving us this platform to share. It's been really awesome.
Thank you. And like it's been awesome for us too. Just putting that out there. Oh, do you have something else to say? Colin, was that you?
No, I was just saying thank you as well. And
Oh,
for
okay.
anyone that came in late, I put this in the chat, but if you are in the show and you want to say something about your work, please place your name in the chat if you've not done so already.
We are currently 18 artists down that I have. So, yeah, I think we still probably should have a bit more time to get pretty much everyone on this list anyway. But next up, we have our second Cynthia, which I don't have the thing pulled up, so that's why that's not working. So give me 1 second. There we go. All right.
Okay, thank you, Devante, for getting my piece there in focus. Can everyone hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay. First of all, I'm Cynthia DiDonato from Rhode Island on the east coast of the USA. And I, like others, are honored and humbled to be part of this exhibit. The exhibit, I think, is extraordinary. I can only imagine the work that it took to create this virtual exhibit. That involves using technology as well. And I thank you all, for making it possible for me to be part of this. First of all, let me say I'm interested in mind landscapes, dealing with the natural world, dealing with oppression, dealing with consciousness, also dealing with quantum mechanics. And I say that term as a layperson. I am not a scientist, but I am fascinated by it and its implications for our world and our worldview. I primarily use an iPad Pro and an Apple Pencil, and I did use that with this piece, but this piece has a history. The background, as you see, was formerly an analog water media piece that was done several years ago. And it has been reborn. Why? Because lately I've been working with creating 2D sculptural pieces using, again, the iPad Pro and the Apple Pencil. And in this particular piece, I am exploring quantum mechanics, in particular entanglement. And so the beaming pieces, let me get rid of that. Sorry, apologize for that. The beaming star-shaped pieces, as you can see, have some sort of connection to one another. There's some dotted lines, and therefore this connection is occurring in there, as it does in entanglement.
That's 1 minute.
It also was reborn because I was able to create layers in which I was able to create that sculptural piece you see in the front that helps to provide depth. And of course, I added motion to the piece. I want to say thank you again. And that's about it.
All right. Thank you, Cynthia.